Well, here we are. It's Brian and Neil, and this has not... volume hasn't turned down. Let me just turn the volume down a bit more. There you go. Hello. Welcome to the first of whatever this is going to be. It's a Tuesday night live stream talking about camera gear, studio builds, anything related to photography and videography, and I thought I'd bring my friend Brian along to share in the fun, where we can impart some of our collective knowledge on video and photography stuff and have a chat. And I need to turn the volume down. It didn't turn it down properly. Sorry, one sec.
It's such relaxing music, though.
I don't want to be too overpowering for the first show. Yeah. So Brian, you have been doing something close to my heart and also very stressful. So today we're going to be talking about studio builds, and Brian has been rebuilding his studio like a crazy person. Hey, and Keith has joined us. Hey, Keith. Thank you for joining us today. How are you?
Hey, Keith.
Right. So, Brian, first off, tell me, why would you put yourself through that?
Well, I think it was my own doing. I kind of dropped the idea to my wife about playing like musical chairs. So we have in our house, we're both self-employed. And I have an office, my wife has an office, and we have a guest bedroom for the 3 nights a year that someone stays with us. And my office has hard tile, and that's pretty common for a lot of places where we live in South Florida. But the guest bedroom and Ashley's office are carpeted. And so I was like, what if we change things around? And I didn't know that she would call me on it. She's like, yeah, that's a great idea.
Did you call her bluff? You say, oh, we'll do it one time, maybe, thinking it's never going to happen. And here we are.
Yep. And here we are. And several times I tried to actually like say, we don't need to do this. I was just joking. It's fine. And she's like, no, we're doing this. And so by we, it really is me moving all of the furniture pretty much myself.
So you moved all the stuff around, and your wife has just moved things in around her office that she wants it to look like. I see.
She was a project manager, so there you go.
There you go. So I think it's one of the most stressful things to do. I think there's moving house, getting married, having children, building a studio. I think it's right up there. It's right up there. Especially if it's your livelihood, and it is effectively your baby, right? It's a space where you want to feel comfortable. It's a space where you want to feel relaxed and be able to do your work. And if I find, and I don't know if you find this, if something's not right, if it just doesn't feel like there's either something's out of place or your equipment isn't serving you or doing what you need it to do, then I just can't get into the zone of actually doing something creative. I have to fix what's wrong in order for me to get on. I'm glad it's not just me then.
No, it's not. And that's one of there's a lot of this simpatico, and why I think it's so, these kinds of conversations flow. Like yesterday, I was sending you photos throughout the day as the office kind of took more and more shape.
Yeah, I really appreciated that. It was nice to see the evolution of the office.
Yep.
And I'm glad I didn't see a photograph of the old office saying, forget this, I'm going back to where I can't do anymore. I'm done. That never entered your mind though, hopefully. So.
No. There was a point of no return that was just kind of, I mean, if someone were to go to our stream from last week, or even when I jumped onto your stream, when was it? I just jumped, was it Friday?
Thursday? Friday. Yeah, Friday. I was just messing around Friday, yeah.
So if anyone jumps on either of those two streams, you'll see my original office. And if you were to watch it now, for the most part, it's kind of similar. When we did our live stream talking about like camera techniques and stuff, I paid attention to that too, with like rules of third and stuff. And even here, I'm kind of breaking a rule where I'm center frame, and then there's the corner is coming out of my head.
There you go.
But listen, some things are just unavoidable. But I was really excited because I got an opportunity. I've had these 2 posters here of my 2 favorite movies of all time, and it's so. I'm a huge space and sci-fi guy, and so this is Interstellar and Inception, and I've always wanted to hang them, and I never had the opportunity in my old office.
Right.
This is I took this from my wife. She wasn't using it anymore. It's just a gray table. And part of me like envisioned using this as a top down if I ever do unboxings or gear reviews.
Yeah.
But the thing that stresses me out the most, two things actually. And you know these. First is the lighting. Like yesterday, I spent hours just dialing. I have all these different lights, and I can turn them all off, and I could like do that thing where we turn on one at a time.
Right, right. Yeah, that might be fun. Yeah,
yeah, we could do that. And then the audio, which I've talked to you about often. 'Cause I'm just like you said, this is our bread and butter. Like I use this setup for the most part to create the digital content that I sell. And I want to provide maximum value. And I'm the first to admit, Neil, and I've told this to you before, I am useless with audio. Like I know I bought this microphone because a buddy of mine who was a seasoned podcaster told me this is like the Cadillac of microphones. And then I have a Rodecaster Pro 2, which is, I don't need like a audio signal processor anymore because it does it all in-house. I used to have like one of those DBX units.
Oh, wow. That's hardcore.
I know. Story of my life, Neil. Like my buddy told me to buy it. I bought it and it has all these dials. I'm like, I have no idea what any of this stuff does. So
sometimes the gear can really, I think, overcomplicate things as well, right? When you get a little bit sort of, wow, what are all these settings for? And 9 times out of 10, you only need pretty much a noise gate and a little bit of compression on your audio to get it right. Now, I've been messing around. This is not my normal microphone. I had this. This is a Lewitt 240 Pro, and I bought this from I bought it from Amazon, but I bought it on the premise that it was a decent microphone for recording guitars and things. So I do play a bit of music, and I'm not very good at music, but I do dabble from time to time. And I picked up a guitar years ago, and I thought, well, it'd be nice to record it. And it's a condenser microphone, so it's different than a dynamic microphone, so it doesn't have as much noise rejection, and it can pick up a little bit more of the room tone. So, but I thought, well, it's fine, and I do like it sometimes because it needs less gain. But like you, I just get a little bit obsessed with trying to get things right, and audio is a big part of that, right? So that's something I was definitely worried about when it comes to changing microphone. Is it going to sound really bad? But it doesn't. Right. It's a live stream. I'm not recording a podcast right now, but that's something we could be doing. Could be recording this and repurposing it as a podcast, and that's something to think about in the future. But sure. Anyway, that gear can be a little bit crazy, and I think I will definitely help you with your microphone. But I do have to say that between this studio and the previous one, this does sound a lot more dampened. It's not as reflective. Just by you talking, you can still hear a little bit, but that's room noise, right? But it's nowhere near what it was before. And I remember you saying that you weren't too happy about that. We have a comment from Dan. It's a question for you, actually, Brian. And this is too small, so let me just change that real quick.
I have excellent vision, but that was... Do you consider
Spaceballs sci-fi?
Yeah, I mean it's sci-fi comedy of the highest order,
right?
One of Mel Brooks' finest films. I don't know now that I think about it. No, you know what? Because I don't want to get assassinated by true sci-fi fans, so. I'm gonna put it as sci-fi comedy or comedy, but sci-fi, yeah, nice. That's Interstellar is sci-fi, and Inception. I can throw that back and say and ask whether Inception would be considered sci-fi. Maybe.
Oh, definitely. Anything with Christopher Nolan is great. I'm a big Christopher Nolan fan. Love Interstellar as well. And Keith, thanks, Keith. He's saying the audio sounds good from both of us, so we do try.
Oh, fantastic.
We do try.
Thank you.
But we can always dial in a bit better. Hello, George, as well. Thank you for joining.
Hey, George. Yeah, the another nice huge benefit that you know about that with this room is that it's carpeted. So, the other studio office, I put it was like a paper thin area rug. It did nothing. I do want to get I think Elgato sells these soundproofing or sound dampening panels. They're kind of in those geometric shapes.
Yeah.
And when you and I were talking about this last week on one of our offline chats, you had mentioned that, placing it basically the targets of where I would be speaking. So like the sound from my mouth obviously hits the microphone here, but it goes out and it hits those walls and it reverberates and stuff like that. So, the thing that I was also worried about, Neil, is I even had like a new ceiling fan installed a couple weeks ago in anticipation of moving here.
Oh, wow.
And that's,
okay.
I just always worry that that low frequency motor, it is quiet, but it has that low frequency kind of static sound.
You can take that out though with the Rodecaster's got it's called a low pass filter, so it's going to be basically filter out, or high pass filter. Sorry, it's going to filter out the low frequencies, and you can tune it basically to a particular frequency. So, and you just again test it, have it on full fan, and then start to wind down the filter to knock out that rumble. I mean, obviously, it's going to be a lower rumble than your voice. So with that said, it'll probably take out most of that and you'll be fine. So there's lots of things you can tweak and tune with audio and so on. And I think Dan, who's on the call at the moment, on the stream at the moment, it's not a live call. Thanks, caller. On the stream at the moment, has got the Elgato panels as well. And I think he finds them useful. Yeah. I think Dan's got everything from Elgato, I'm convinced. I remember him saying
they're a good company.
From time ago. Yeah, I mean, software can be a bit iffy, but the hardware and stuff is pretty good. I've had some issues with the software, but not to Elgato.
We're looking at you, Camera Hub.
Good stuff. Camera Hub, and also the control center for the lighting sometimes.
Yes.
And that's a sort of a protocol thing, and I've had some problems where they don't connect to Wi-Fi and they drop and things like that. So I ended up hard coding the IP addresses in them, the network addresses. So they're always the same now. So now they work. 99. I've not had any, touch wood. Watch this now. I've had some not too many issues with them since doing that, but overall it's been good. So tell me about the rationale behind your new layout. I know you wanted, obviously, a better space to make things flow a bit better, a little bit more carpeted, dampening room and things like that. So, let me know how you started this whole process. And I'll just say hello really quick to Tech Troublemaker. Hello, Roy. Thanks for joining. We are talking studio builds tonight, Roy. So this could be interesting for anybody who wants to sort of build a studio. Now, we both have studios, but Brian, just to recap, had his studio, moved it over the weekend, and he just did it for the show, which is really nice. That's all
that's if it was successful, which it kind of is, then I give you all the credit, and if it was a failure, I was going to blame you, because I remember when we at the end of when we were on our live stream, you're like, all right, well, let's get it ready for Tuesday. I was like, oh man, all right, and that's a good thing. Setting a deadline or a goal is always a good thing. And so, I mean, I was lucky because for the most part, the first couple of days yesterday and today were wide open. So the rationale is, I'm fortunate because I had most of everything I needed. Like I already had my lights. And that's a new thing. In my previous office, I had two of the Elgato key lights. So I had one here and one here. And then I replaced the main fill light with the Amaran 60D, I think it is, with a mini light dome and just a diffuser. So that's my main light. And then obviously I needed a light to fill this side of my face. And so that's one of the key lights. And then I had the other key light that I had that I used to use that I replaced with the Amaran. Fills basically the tree or the fake tree, I should say, and the bookshelf. And then I have right now a Govee 4-foot just light strip, a vertical light strip that's serving kind of also has kind of a fill/rim, kind of gives a little bit of light on this side of my arm. So that's the lighting setup.
Right.
I've always had this standing desk since like 2017 by X Desk. It's a Terra 2. I went to IKEA and bought, like all people, like just a few weeks ago, I bought these Alex drawers that everyone has.
Yeah, I think I've got one behind me. Here, you probably can't see it, but yeah, it's behind me. I mean, everybody has those drawers, but they're so useful. They're just the right height for a desk. So and they're great as legs for a desk, right? That's what I use. One because I've got a sort of a U-shaped desk configuration. I've got IKEA legs everywhere, and then I've got at the other end for a leg, which is good.
Yeah, and in my previous setup, I had almost no storage, like whatsoever, and so obviously the Alex drawers give me all the storage I need. Plus, I have a closet that I didn't have in my previous office.
Right.
That's where I put the TV. So in my old office, I had my TV right behind me. And I put that in the closet so I can close the doors and further reduce kind of the distance that sound has to travel. So that wall is a little bit closer to me now. And you see, I wish I kind of had something that I can pivot to show you. Maybe I'll do something next week. Like I'll do a quick video or something to show you if anyone even wants to see.
Yeah, I mean, I think like you, I think a lot of people are sort of get obsessed with getting the studio right, but I'm always keen to look at other people's studios. I think you mentioned this last week as well. We just love sort of doing a tour and things like that. And we have a couple of people join as well. So hey, Joseph, thank you so much for joining tonight, Joseph. Joseph and I work together on different projects, so it's nice to see you here, Joseph. And awesome. Dan, Camera Hub software does leave a lot to be desired. It's getting better, but got some problems with it at the moment. Definitely.
I mean, Elgato crushed it, Neil. You know, in terms of like the actual product launch, you remember it was on back order for like 4 months when it was first launched.
Oh, the prompter.
The prompter. And I bring it up. Camera Hub is what I primarily use to drive the prompter. I don't use Elgato cameras, so I don't need it for anything else. But yeah, like... And they did improve it with that recent update, but it's still such it needs to get better. Yeah,
it isn't the best, and a couple of my most successful videos recently has all been just helping people get this thing working. Right, the two of them, the first one was, well, there was a lot of people that just couldn't get it working on the Mac because the Mac's got those security settings, but Elgato didn't fully explain all the little nuances. They sort of gave 3 steps, and instead of it doesn't work, that's it. And then people came to me and after I did the video and said, just thank you so much for this. The 2 missing points from Elgato's support site is the one that they needed to get it working. And it shouldn't be like that. It should just be pretty much plug and play. But they're using a third-party software, the display link software as well, which is a pain. Dan says, one area of the studio he feels a ton of people miss out is a 3-dimensional space and the ceiling. Do you mean around sort of the depth of the space once you've created it, instead of just having like a flat wall and it just looks very flat? And I think with Brian's setup now, obviously you get that level of depth. You can see how everything has been intentionally placed. And would you mind just... Yeah, thank you. Would you mind just showing me, just maybe switching off a couple of your lights? Because you've got them all automated right now.
Yes.
You can just,
Yeah, let's do that. We're going to start...
Not to put you on the spot, but, No. Brian can just click his fingers and the lights just... disappear.
One thing you should know about me, guys, is I have absolutely no ego, and I know the things I know for the most part, and I certainly know the things I don't. So I am open to suggestions. So
there you go.
I'm going to turn off the fill light, the Govee, so that will darken that. Just you see, it was very subtle. Yeah. Okay, now we're going to get a little bit more dramatic. So I'm using the Citus Link app on my desk. It's the mobile app, but it's on my desktop. And for some reason, did you know that Citus will only allow you to basically run on one? You could be logged in on only one device, so I can't use it on my phone and my desktop.
Oh, really? Oh, no, I didn't know that. Okay. That's a good tip.
Yeah, so it'll surface a little dialogue. So now, okay, so let's see. First thing I'm going to do is turn off. Okay, I'll start very subtle. I'm going to turn off this light right there.
Oh,
That
right,
is,
one.
yeah, that is the aperture, that little RGB light bulb. So I'm going to turn that off. So that turned off there. Okay. Now let's start with now I'm switching to the Elgato stuff. So I'm going to turn off the fill on the tree.
All right. And that's
so
an
there goes
Elgato
that.
key light. You've got that, right? That's
an Elgato key light.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I'm going to turn off the Elgato, the fill light for this side of my head. So that, actually it's really subtle. I'm surprised. You see, it's like really.
Oh yeah. I hardly noticed it until you said about it.
Well, because if I can blow it out like that.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but I have it as a very subtle, like 15%.
Mm.
Okay, so let's turn that off. Then we're gonna go and let's see what else. Okay, so now we're gonna turn off the. I have another. You see, kind of right there. You see how it's the walls illuminated.
Oh wow. Okay, you got another light.
Yeah. So that. Let's see.
How many lights do you have? I'm on 1, 2, 3. You're already on 4, I think, right?
Yeah.
I'm losing count.
It's a lot. Let's see.
That's cool.
Wow. It's not turning off though, which is weird. Let me see here. It's not turning on. I'll turn everything off then. How about that? Let's just turn it all off. So boom. That's.
Oh wow.
This is what we call lit by LCD by LED. So like, or LCD rather. This is
right, and your monitor. That's it. Wow.
Yeah. That's the other thing. I did add I have two 32-inch displays. So that's what's lighting me right now.
Right.
So let's see here. If I turn on the main light, let's just see what happens there. And I don't know if for those of you who use Sidus Link with like Amaran lights, oftentimes I have to toggle in the Sidus Link app the on-off switch. So this is going to like, I don't know why it does that, but eventually it'll start very slowly to ramp up. There it is. Now it's coming.
I see.
So
it's like a fade more than anything.
It is, but I don't know why it does that. Why it shouldn't just turn on. And then you've got it set to the percentage intensity that you want, and then it just fades up to that level. That's how it works, I guess, right? Yep.
Okay.
Exactly. So let's turn these lights back on.
It's amazing how sort of one-dimensional it looks without the additional lights. It's that just that other light just gives it that depth, and especially the light behind you will just help you pop a little bit more in the scene. And then obviously your practical light which is what they tend to call them, right? The practical lights, the little one with the lampshade and things like that, so on.
Which I'm going to turn on right. This Sidus Link app leaves a lot to be desired. I will.
Right.
So, yeah. So there you go.
That's cool. And it's all controlled by obviously the controller. I think Roy mentions that he uses Alexa to turn on and off studio. Now that's fine if they're compatible, or you've got the Alexa plugs. Over in the UK and in Europe, they're not that common. You know, the plugs where they're Alexa enabled, so they're just a mains plug and things like that. And Dan basically says that he's surprised we have a clapper. Just that'd be great. Hey Eileen, thanks for stopping by. We're talking studio builds and all things fun, but it's an important part of the process of especially if you're going to be on camera and present content, especially if you're being a professional and asking people to support you and pay for your services and things. You want to look as professional as possible on camera and have a nice, decent setup. And I've spent way too much time trying to get things right and always tweaking something. And I have every plant in here. I've only got 2 little plants, but they're all fake as well, because nothing would grow in this dungeon environment because there's no windows. But there you go. And I think that's what you mentioned before, sorry, but controlling your lighting is really important. Sorry, go ahead. That's
something I would love to jump in on as well, because that's a great point. But before that, like if you could jump to my full screen for a second.
Mm-hmm.
So, let me see here. I'm trying to most of these things. So like these gold things that like bird up on top and this little thing next to it, that round vase thing, the little weird kind of sculpture thing right there. Those are and the plant. I got those at Home Goods, which is like a it's a company I believe owned by TJ Maxx or TJX. Yeah, and you can go there and find all these like random tchotchkes, these random, just things that you don't want to go overboard, because clutter there's like that clutter creep into your studio, but it's an opportunity to show off a little bit more of your personal side and personal mementos. Like, for example, these two wooden things over there, the bee and the Brian. My dad made those for me when I was a kid. He would do these great things with wood, and so that's very special for me. The iPod and the two old iPhones, those are just my wife's. She saved them, so I took them. It's just always cool to have retro gear. There's an old Polaroid Landshark camera. Then there are my older 35 millimeter film cameras, because I'm a photographer, so that's what I do. There's an old two relatively newer Polaroid cameras. Point is, one, never underestimate introducing green into like foliage or plants, even if they're fake. And two, like the posters are probably the biggest departure for me, because they're just my favorite film. So in a way they are personal, but I think it's a really great opportunity. I see a lot of studio builds that, sometimes the people use green screens, and that's totally fine. Like, I totally get that. But if you have the opportunity and you have the room for it, that's an easy way to kind of not necessarily set yourself apart, I think, but to let your own personality shine. Like, your studio, it's so distinct to me, and I know that is Neil's studio. You've got the piano. We talked about this, lead lines. You've got the really nice blue contrast background light, and you're lit perfectly. So it's just kind of, I know that's your scene, and I think that's important when people can identify your own subliminal brand, so to speak. So
no, I think, and it's just subtle, right? Again, like you said, I don't like a lot of clutter. I think there's a couple of things on the desk that shouldn't be there today anyway. So I'll go back and have a look at those. But yeah, I think it's just important to just feel comfortable in your space. Now, I like being a mushroom. I like a darker type of space. I mean, obviously you have to be well lit to be on camera, but I use quite a low aperture lens, as I mentioned before, to get as much light in. I like the shallow depth of field. It's not a huge room by any stretch, but at least it gives that impression that there's a bit of depth there and just subtle colours and things. But I've been intending to do, and there's a couple of people asked me actually about, what lights to use. So I'll have to do a lighting and studio tour. So that's something else for the show at some point. I'll have to get a roving camera around it and do that. A couple of people just add some comments as well. So Joseph has said that the latest Stream Deck upgrade, which just came out because they've introduced a few new things, Elgato, but in doing so, it's blown all the Ecamm show buttons. But we'll definitely have to do some reprogramming of those, Joseph. It's a pain because I noticed that today as well. I had the same upgrade. I'd just been programming my buttons for this show, and boom, why don't they get honored? There's also an Ecamm update as well, Joseph. So just
for production or beta?
For both beta and for production. So that's worth updating as well. And Eileen, to your point, as mentioned about dust collectors, you have a lot of Swifters. What are Swifters? Is that an American cleaning utensil?
Yeah,
sorry,
it's
Eileen. I'm not familiar with Swifters.
They're a godsend. First of all, it's basically a handle, and these replaceable. They're kind of like these little fiber things that you just swipe them on surfaces, and they are like magnets for dust. And then when you're done, you take it off and you can throw it out and put a different one on. Swiffers are like, they're a must.
They're a must. So Dan's not a massive fan of plants in his studio. You can't stand them. I don't know why you can't stand them. I mean, everybody's different. I mean, some people don't like them. I think there has been an overuse of them in YouTube studios over the last sort of few years. I always look at people like Peter McKinnon, and who changes the studio as often as you would change your underwear. You know, he keeps moving premises and things like that. So there's a lot of things, but I like just the look of a plant in a room, and just it gives a different sort of contrast, and just everybody's different at the main thing. Dan also had a comment around, although funny enough, Costco has a sale on Lego plants.
There you go. I mean, there you go. It gives you an opportunity, if you're into Lego, to just put a piece of yours. Well, no pun intended, but piece of
Lego out, definitely. Yeah, I think it's important to have a little bit of your personality in your studio. I mean, behind me, I've got two. You can't really see them, but here and here, the sort of plaques. One says coffee, which is what I like in the morning, like everybody does, and the other one says gin and tonic, because obviously I'm from the UK. Even though gin and tonic was actually invented by the Dutch originally and stolen by the British, but you know, we like to steal
Well, what
things.
kind of gin are we talking about? Are we talking about Bombay Sapphire or Tanqueray? Like, what's?
I did start with Tanqueray, but I like Brockman's. I like London gin. There's so many now. That's the problem. Yeah. My wife and I took a visit to the Netherlands a few years ago, and we were just cleansing our palates with some gin, as you do. And we went into one of these bars, and the guy said, "You must try this gin without any tonic." I'm like, "Whoa, neat gin." I mean, do we have a problem now? Anyway, but certain gins without the tonic taste really nice. You just get more of the flavor without them. The tonic can add that. And, you know, I don't know what it's like in the US, but a lot of people, or they used to in the UK, when you used to get a gin and tonic, they'd throw some peppers, not peppers, but, you know, all kinds of sort of mustard seeds and all kinds of weird things to change the flavor of that and stuff. But it's interesting just to try it. Yeah, they can get quite elaborate in the UK. If you ever come to the UK and ask for gin and tonic, just make sure you say, "I don't want anything in it, just the gin and the tonic. Don't put any of that fancy garnish in there."
No, ice is about the only garnish I would put in a gin and tonic. So
yeah, and that's a stretch, definitely. Eileen says that she moved her big plant from behind me, but I have a few small ones. There you go.
Yeah.
And her 3-year-old grandson, has a Lego plant. Okay, well, maybe is a budding entrepreneur and getting ready to build out his YouTube studio. Why not? Indeed.
There you go.
Yeah. So, are there any things that you would change in your current studio environment? Now, having just, this is probably an unfair question because you've only just finished and got it up and running, but are there things that you would like to maybe tweak and change, things that you're not 100% happy with yet?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
The shade or the curtain.
Okay.
That was here from the previous owners of the house. We moved in here, it'll be almost 2 years ago. And so we have done some things, but not a lot. That shade, I want it to be a blackout curtain, and I also want it to be a different color because it would be just an easy way to add a bit more contrast. The wall color is kind of earth tony as it is, which I don't like, and you know, no offense certainly to anyone who likes earth tones, but I could change that. We've talked about this. I could change that by using, like, I could change the color of the light there.
Right. To add a bit of an accent color or something like that. Is that an RGB light you've got in there, or is that just a single color tone? Okay, so you could mix it up and mess around and see if anything would almost cascade onto the white curtain to give it a bit of a color hue or something.
The problem is that it doesn't, I mean, it blocks some of the light during the day, but we discussed this as well last week when we were talking about like white balance, for example. I really want to get to a place where I can control the baseline state of the studio as much as possible, so that when I close the two, because there's another window over here off camera, when I close those shades, I want it to be as close to dark as possible, and that way, you know, I could, you know, use a clapper or something, but that's a great segue because that's I texted you, I think, earlier today or yesterday about that.
Right.
I would love to figure out a way to use a Stream Deck to automate this stuff, but I don't know. On one hand, I wasn't sure, but then on the other hand, it was your video, your brilliant video that I found a while ago that helped me get mute buttons for the Rodecaster Pro. For some reason,
right.
I mean, what a great video, and a must-have in my opinion for anyone who uses a Rodecaster. Basically, the long and short of it is the video Neil put out shows you how to create a macro with the Stream Deck to mute individual microphones on your Stream Deck, which you can't do easily. So that was helpful. But Citus Link, the Govee app, I don't know if it's possible. So when saying like use the clap or use So I would love to though, because it is a bit of a procedure.
You can. So I know there are with the Stream Deck, you have to obviously have the plugins that are either respective for the manufacturer, but there are other third-party tools that you can use. Something like what's it called now? If then this that, or if that then whatever it's
IFTT.
called. IFTT. Thank you, IFTT. Yeah. And that I think you can use in conjunction with other apps like the Philips Hue app as a plugin for the Stream Deck. But for other lights that don't, I think you can have that be controlled from the Stream Deck. So if you set up routines and things like that, you could probably figure out something to do. But I wouldn't mind looking into that to see whether you could get a macro to work. Because right now I have, so my tube lights behind me are Godox. They're the Godox TL60s, the RGB tube lights. There's one here and one there. And they're only controlled by a Bluetooth app on the phone. They don't have any app in Stream Deck, which is a bit frustrating. So you end up having to control it with the phone. I mean, it's no big deal. I mean, it's, first world problems, right? Oh, I have to switch on my lights manually. How terrible. Right. But if there was an automated way, and especially if you have a studio where you want to mix up the lighting environment, i.e. I'm doing a video today, but maybe I don't want the pink and the blue that I've got behind me. I want something else. I may want just an all white background, whatever it might be. It's nice to just be able to press a button and have those. And the only way you used to be able to do that was the Philips Hue lights, because they're controlled. You control them by Alexa. You can control them by the Stream Deck. But obviously, as we know, as we talked about, the Philips Hue lights can introduce flicker, banding, and all kinds of nonsense with that. So the Govee, I don't think, even has a plugin for Stream Deck. So there must be a way of doing that. But with my lights, Elgato, yes, I can control them with the Stream Deck, of course. But that's just one light in my 3-light setup. So it would be nice to be able to do something similar. So if anybody's got any ideas out there, let us know. But yeah.
I have an idea, actually. It's possible. I have to look into it. But so first, I actually banished Philips Hue from my studio. I don't even have the bridge connected. I don't have anything Hue because I'm sorry, the flicker was driving me crazy. And so that's gone. But what I'm wondering, I might play around with it, is maybe using Apple shortcuts. You gave me the idea just now when you talked about having to go to your phone.
Right.
And so, Citus Link has, it's an iOS app. The Govee app is iOS, and and then the Control Center app is, there's an iOS app.
So everything's iOS. So I think, that's a good point. Maybe you could run a routine, a shortcut within Apple. And I don't know if Apple's got any plugins for the Stream Deck, because that would be the next best thing.
And just that would be fantastic.
Yeah. And talking about Stream Deck, with the latest Stream Deck update, and this is for anybody who's still here, Joseph and the guys who've got, and I think you've got an iPad as well. So Stream Deck have just introduced the Stream Deck mobile for the iPad. Now they've always had a Stream Deck app for the phone,
right?
And if you don't want to pay I think it's $24 a year or something for it. I don't know why they do a subscription model. You should just pay it once and that's it. But I think you go back, instead of paying $300 for a Stream Deck, you could pay technically $24 for the year and use your phone. So that only allows you to have I can't remember what it is, 16 or 24 buttons. But with the Stream Deck, I'm just testing it right now. I've just got a trial. So I've got an iPad in front of me. I've been playing with it. You can have 64 buttons on your iPad. So it's mind-blowing. So it's like, I need to fill this up with stuff. So I've been doing things like that, sound bites,
Right.
fun stuff. I'm not even sure if you can hear those because they're probably not coming through, but all kinds of different fun stuff. I must program it. It's the Rodecaster again. Rodecaster has to send it through them. Never mind. I'll set that up. But now, in terms of setting up scenes and different workflows, like having these buttons like with your CTA and stuff like that, it's much easier with a bigger Stream Deck instead of having the little ones. I'm still going to use the other ones, of course, because you can never have too many Stream Deck buttons. But in terms of automation and workflow for your studio, if you've got an old iPad lying around, because I think you can use them on older iPads as well. So if you've got one, this is my wife's old iPad that's it's actually got a cracked screen, so it's not really used for anything else. But as a very expensive Stream Deck panel, then it's pretty useful, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I went the opposite. I have so I've got my Stream Deck XL over here, and that's the only one that I connected. I also have the Stream Deck. What's the model with the dials? Is it the Pro?
The Plus.
Stream Deck Plus.
Yeah, that's super useful actually. The Plus.
Yeah, but I actually will reconnect it. It's just in one of my drawers here. Because I want to develop a way for photographers to use the dials to quickly cull and review their photos using the knobs like left and right. And then, so, but for the most part, I haven't built enough systems or enough scenes in Ecamm to have to warrant using folders, for example.
Right.
I'll get there, but, right now, I just wanted to focus on the one show that I have and like the scenes for that. But every time I see, that's the thing. One of the things I love about this community is watching other people's live streams. It's so inspiring to see how people are leveraging Ecamm and the various ways that you can pull media into Ecamm in these creative ways. Even like what you did earlier, the kind of overlay introducing the topic.
Oh, you mean this heading thing? Yeah, I always take inspiration from Paul Dixon. He's a guy in the channel who does a lot of things. But yeah, just taking inspiration like that, just subtle things, just to mix it up a little bit. It's always nice to have something like that.
Yeah, and just so I will get there. I just sometimes I see what someone does and I'm like, oh. Your mind goes into this like, how do I reverse engineer this choice to see what he did or what she did? Yeah. But the community. I've jumped onto a few other people's live streams, just kind of ad hoc, and that's how we connected. Like you just happened to broadcast when I was in this kind of like recharge mode during the day, and I would just jump. And you talk about stuff that is very near and dear to me. So it just worked out really well.
It's been great to sort of connect with you. And the plan for people who are listening is that we're trying to do a more regular Tuesday night live stream. I wanted to go live twice a week anyway, and the idea behind it was I have a regular stream on Thursday, but I'm always struggling to find things, and I do have some ideas about what to show. But tutorials during live streams are never the best. They can be complex, as we saw when we were trying to do our previous stream, which I think turned out pretty well anyway, given the fact that there was a lot of moving parts in that. But it's always difficult to demo, especially software and things like that. So I've tried. So that was what I was still thinking of doing every Thursday. Then when Brian and I got talking, we thought, well, would it be nice to just do something a little bit more informal like this every sort of Tuesday evening, just to talk about subjects that we're interested in, and hopefully other people find interesting as well. So that's the plan. So obviously today is all about studio bills, and I wanted to come on to your potential dilemma at the moment about having multiple cameras. And I think I was thinking about the sort of this, not the solution, but like I have if I show you really quick, so I've got the ZV-1, and it's pointing down, and you can tell it's pointing down. So when you look at it, you can see it's pointing down. And it's okay for like an overhead type of shot. And obviously I have another camera here, just as sort of a behind the scenes, which I always like seeing people's behind the scenes stuff. But when when we're sort of doing those tutorials, you always want to be, it's difficult. You always want a camera to be in the middle of the monitor so you can work on the monitor and show what you need to show. But have you considered maybe having almost like an off-center side view? So where you have your view at the moment. So you're talking here. You got the prompter in front of you at the moment, right?
Yes.
And
so
and then you'd be there, right, when you're doing. Yeah.
That's my computer. And the problem, and again, this is where it would help to have another, like I said, my phone or something to show you. I have my two 32-inch displays joined together slightly at an angle. So like, you know, it kind of for reflection, and it's just easier to see. But if I were to separate them wide enough for a lens to shoot through, I don't know that it would. I can try because they're both on arms, so it's easy enough for me to just pivot them around.
Yeah, just try it.
But here's the thing, Neil, is I will want a prompter on that camera too. Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah,
and then that becomes a lot wider, right? Because then you've got at least 5 inches gap between the two monitors, and it depends if you can live with that.
Well, I could. Yeah, it depends. I'd have to see, because I again talk about first world problems, but I've become so spoiled with this ability to see the feed, so I could see exactly what's being broadcast. Versus when I did have so that's exactly what I had earlier in my previous setup. I wasn't using two 32-inch displays. I had my one Apple display and then my laptop as a secondary display. So the laptop was off to the side and the camera was there, but it was very annoying I would kind of look at the lens, but then I'd have to kind of look off to the left a little bit to see the feed because I didn't have a prompter on there.
Right.
And that just breaks kind of the flow of conversation where I'm like, my eyes are like looking left and right. And so what I think I can try to do, I have the camera is mounted onto a tension arm that spans the 12 feet. These ceilings are I do not like these high ceilings, but the camera's mounted onto a tension arm. I have another tension arm that I could use to put behind the desk. I mean, that could also be a fun, like, we can do maybe a live walk around tour to set the, because here's the thing. I would be happy to do a studio tour, but for my YouTube channel, I know for a fact that my audience would not care about that. That is just not something that talking about how to use Ecamm, my audience, they are photographers. They want to learn how to take and edit photos.
Right. Yeah. Understood.
Which is why I love this, because this allows me to, this is a creative outlet where I can have just totally geek out on the stuff that I really love, but I can't, YouTube would penalize me if I did that. If I all of a sudden started doing a studio tour.
You're almost pivoting, aren't you? Yeah. So by all means, I mean, we can use this channel, this platform to do whatever you want to do. And if you wanted to share anything, that'd be great. Because for me, my audience, I guess, is more about the Ecamm community, a bit of live streaming, some video production and things, trying to help and do workflows around that thing. So bring it on, studio tours and stuff like that, especially gear and things. I don't want to ever become a hardcore gear review channel. If something comes up that I find interesting, and I'll put it out there, and I have done a couple of those, but there's many people much better qualified and have better videos and take more time to do those gear reviews. Plus they get sent all the gear anyway. So, but yeah, by all means, let's use this channel to talk about anything that we want, because there's so many subjects relating to video production, audio workflows, and what you're saying about using the Stream Deck in conjunction with maybe assigning, and I don't know whether you can assign Lightroom sliders and things to the Stream Deck, so you can control like hue and saturation, or maybe highlight, some sort of controls. I know there are dedicated controllers for that, right? There are dedicated consoles for doing sort of Lightroom workflows. Is that
Classic. for Lightroom
Oh,
Classic.
really?
Yes.
Oh, right. Oh,
Yeah,
because
because
it's an
Lightroom
app.
Classic does.
It's an app.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they Lightroom Classic has an API that you can tie into that. So there's Loop Deck. There are a
Yeah.
few other companies that make, and I don't use them. I don't necessarily recommend them. To me, they're more of a hindrance than anything else. However, um, things like reviewing your photos, where as long as there's a keyboard shortcut in the new version of Lightroom, which is what I use,
Mm.
I can bind that using Stream Deck
Yeah,
pretty
you could.
easily.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so think about, what does a photographer reasonably need if they just took 500 photos
Right.
and they want to go through them quickly to, let's say on the first pass, they just want to identify the photos that are out of focus or just clearly rubbish that need to be purged. Well,
Mm.
you just need left and right arrow keys. That left and right goes back and forth. And then you need something that can go to a reject flag, which is a keyboard shortcut, or a pick
Mm-hmm.
flag, which is another. Or you can use the dials on the Stream Deck, if you have that Stream Deck, to count up stars. So you can go from 0 stars to 5 stars if you
Right.
want.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be good.
So
Yeah. So it's just
yeah,
about simplifying that workflow for getting rid of the photos, because it is a pain, and it's similar when I'm doing video editing with Final Cut. There's a lot of footage that needs to be rejected, and there are a few
yes,
things that you can do within the Stream Deck to help with that. But unfortunately, it's not always easy. And like you, I just use the keyboard and mouse and keyboard shortcuts. I'm familiar with the
right.
shortcuts now. To introduce another tool, something that's more tactile, there's some things that might be useful, but yeah, I don't know. It depends. And if somebody's just starting out with a product, it's almost the muscle memory, getting them then used to using that third-party product, Stream Deck or whatever it might be, might help them. But when you're coming from a product that you've learned and you know the shortcuts, introducing something else is a bit tricky. I don't know. There's lots of people that use them, but again, it's personal preference, right?
Absolutely.
And do you use so do you just use a keyboard and mouse? Do you use a tablet or anything? You know, the Wacom tablet or anything like that for your work?
Funny enough, I actually worked at Wacom for
All right.
a little over a year. Yeah.
Okay.
When I lived in Portland, their U.S. headquarters is in Oregon. And so
Okay.
I do have one back. Where is? Oh, it's in this bookshelf behind the camera. No, I don't. I used to use it more often, and I've just become more proficient. I use an Apple keyboard,
Right.
just the mini
Oh, yeah.
keyboard with the Touch ID,
Yeah.
and I use a Apple Magic Trackpad, and that is pretty
Okay.
much
All
all I
right.
use. I can see the case for someone who is doing a lot of either obviously illustration or graphic design. A Wacom pen tablet would be instrumental. Or even if you're a photographer and you do a lot of very fine selection work in Photoshop, let's say you're doing composites. But for the most part, you kind of hit the nail on the head, where my goal is to see whatever I'm doing to my photo, I want to see that effect. And if
Right.
I'm looking at the loop deck, or if I'm kind of like focused on the medium, the tool that I'm using, I'm not focusing on the photo or the effect on the photo, which is why I advocate for just whatever the lowest barrier to entry, the lowest friction point.
Yeah.
Just stick with that.
Yeah. That makes sense. So in terms of your studio now, where you're at,
Mhm.
obviously your sounds a lot better as we mentioned. So maybe the microphone is something to dial in. What's your, and this is a bit of a bone of contention, particularly when it comes to doing videos, and I've thought about this as well. What's your view about having the microphone in the shot, as
Great
we both
question.
have right now?
Well, I noticed in your rear shot, was there a shotgun mic that you
Yeah.
had?
So I do have this shotgun
Right there.
mic here
Mm-hmm.
that I have used from time to time. What I tend to do is when I'm doing tutorial videos, I tend not to use a microphone like this. I have done in the past. It's all to do with laziness.
Sure.
And what I would tend to do is move this out the way and use the shotgun mic. Now, it's not going to be as as good as this as a close proximity to the mic. Obviously, the closer you get to microphone, the less reflections, less noise, and you get that proximity effect where it sounds nice on your voice. But because I'm a bit retentive when it comes to audio, I'll throw this through a in post-production. I'll throw it through like a noise gate or some voice isolation where it'll just reduce the amount of reflections, and I get it to a point where it's good enough for me anyway. People can still hear. It gets this microphone out of the shot, and it just feels a little bit more, I don't know, engaging if there's no microphone in the way. That's what I feel. I think people, I mean, I like to see videos without microphones, especially if they're tutorials, live streams and things like that. It doesn't really matter. But if only this would sound just as good, and then I wouldn't use this at all. And I have used it for live streams as well, and you may see me use it from time to time on our live streams, and then, but it's difficult because it's not always going to sound as good. So anyway, what's your thoughts on the whole thing?
I mean, I have a Sennheiser. I can't remember the model, shotgun mic. Yeah,
it's a nice one.
It is. I got it years ago, and it's still in a bin. Just because you hit the nail on the head. I can never get it to sound as good as. I believe this is a dynamic mic. I don't think it's a condenser mic.
That's dynamic, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and so because it doesn't require phantom power, if I remember correctly.
Right.
And so it's interesting you bring this up, because I was thinking about this when I was setting everything up, and I asked myself whether I should, make more of an effort to try to get the Sennheiser shotgun mic. Because I have it. I have an XLR cable. I have a Rodecaster 2 that supports multiple inputs. But it's funny. Even though this is a very obviously it's in the frame here. It takes up a chunk of the frame, and it is a thing that you can hit, and tap and stuff. I find it to be more of a security blanket. I like having this thing here. It's become second nature. Like if I lean back, for example, I know to bring this closer to me, or if I'm going to go to the editing, I'm going to move it here. And like also aesthetically, I kind of like the champagne gold color of this mic. And
no, I think it looks good. Yeah. I don't know. I've got a.
You're not a fan though.
No, I do. I like them, but I think there's a place for them, and sometimes I'd rather not have them. I just want the best of both worlds. But you can't.
I'm with you.
I've got a tip as well that I might try a second. So David's joined us. Hello, David. He says he's not seen you for a long time.
David Foster. Oh yeah. We hung out when I lived in Portland.
There you go. Well, yeah. I've watched quite a few of David's streams over the years through all the shows he's been on, whatever. So I still catch up from time to time. It's really funny. I mean, everybody knows everybody in this industry, right? It is a small world. It is a small world. So a tip that I saw somebody else use, and it's about, I have to use I'm going to draw on you in a minute. So just stay where you are. So, so what somebody was doing is they were taking a shot like this, and I've tried this as well. And I'll just have to move it to my iPad. So they put a microphone. Your shotgun microphone would be, let's say it's there. Right. I don't want this to look dodgy.
That can get very dangerous.
Yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. So you'd have it as close. Thank God I'm not great at drawing. So you'd have it there, and if you didn't move to your right, the microphone would be in shot. And then what they would do is you'd move out the way. They'd take a clean plate, i.e. a clean shot of the background, everything that you have right now without you in the frame. And then they would simply, in post-production, mask that out. So you get the proximity. I know, right? You get the proximity effect of having the microphone close to you, but so on as well. So
yeah, I mean, but they would have to, because when I'm in frame and I'm using an f2 lens at f2,
right?
The background, they would have to take the a photo of the back of the scene.
Yeah.
Oh, they'd have to manual focus. That's all they'd have to do.
Right.
Never mind. I'm working this through in my head.
Right.
Here's the problem though with the shotgun. Also, again, we were talking about 2-camera solutions. If I had the shotgun mic up here, and then I start talking to you here, which is my primary camera,
right,
you're going to have if we're
in the
broadcasting
scene, yeah.
And I mean, the camera would be off to my right, so the audio, if it's a stereo feed, would you'd only hear it more on the right side.
Right.
I mean, or the reverse.
You'd have to. I mean, you do have to have it pointing directly, and the rule is that you have it like you're like doing a loser sign. You have it just above your head. So David's saying, is the stream buffering from anybody else? I don't know, David.
Chopped up for you. Your audio chopped up for 2 seconds, but that's it.
Okay. I'm not sure because I mean I am using Starlink, so as we know, and I'm using Restream to multi-stream, but I'm hoping it's not terrible.
No, I see. I have it on YouTube right here, and it's flawless.
Oh, is it? Okay, maybe it's something else. Oh, so David's saying he's actually getting ready to test a shotgun mic for his setup out of shot, but still on my boom arm. Yeah, so I've seen. Is it Harris Elliott? They have it's like down here. It's just out of frame, pointing up. So there's lots of different thoughts around microphones. I'm still there to test. Now the other option, of course, is to use a lavalier or a sort of a very small microphone. And here's what he made earlier.
I mean, this is the Rode Wireless Pro, wireless mics with a lav, and I was thinking about that as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's an option. They're not going to get... I think it's a matter of experimenting. Maybe what we should do when we're doing our subsequent live streams, we should both agree that this Tuesday we're just going to use the lavalier mics and try and live stream like that. And then the next week we'll try and use a shotgun, and it's about testing. And the thing is that the only way to play with it is to mess around with it. So David is asking, is that the Lewitt 4400? No, it's the 240 Pro. I don't have the 4400. Oh, sorry, the 440. But I've had this. I was saying to Brian before, I've had this microphone for many years, and I just love the Lewitt sound. I like the quality of them, and I do have the SM7B. You spend a fortune for it, but I just like mixing microphones up. That's my problem, like mixing audio and things. What can I tell you? It's just just a passion.
That was it. Tom Buck.
Yes.
He has several videos like that,
doesn't he? Yeah,
it is wild. Yeah, and he does a great job of. I like that he has his Rodecaster 2 on a kind of one of those Vesa mounts on an arm.
Yeah,
like
and he swivels it round. Yeah, I like mine being out the way. Mine's you can probably see it. Where am I? It's just out of shot. It's just there. You can probably see it just a little bit lit up, but it's just there typically. And I don't need it now because using the Rodecaster stuff, I can mix up sound and things like that. So I don't need that at all. David said he's got the 240 Pro in white. That's his current mic. I don't know the main differences between them actually. They all look pretty good and sound good. So microphone of choice at the moment, Brian. So you have is it the Heel? Is that the name of the microphone?
I never know if it's Heel or Heil, but it's Heel PR40. This is the same mic that I believe Pat Flynn uses from Smart Passive Income. And like I said, it was recommended to me from my buddy Sharky James. He was the host of the Petapixel photography podcast. Now he's moved to kind of his own self-branded photography podcast, but he's been doing this for a very long time. And he recommended that I get this, and I bought this back in like 2017, and I've used it since.
Wow.
Yeah,
cool. It's a great mic.
And that's when
Go on, sorry.
Yeah, no, not at all. It just he also recommended getting I think it was a Mackie mixer, and but that was like an older mixer, and the DBX something maybe 26. I can't remember the model, but. And I had it in a rack and everything. And yeah,
it's like a home studio you've got there, definitely.
Exactly for a podcast.
I remember Leo Laporte and the Twit team when I used to watch that
Yep.
years and years ago. They all had those microphones as well. And I think, what did David say? All the students of, I don't know what that is, but Ravenscraft started with that as well. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think I told you, Neil, or I can't remember if I did, but I had actually purchased the Rode Pod Mic USB, the one that has XLR and USB on it.
Right.
I used it for a couple of days, and I couldn't. I blamed partly myself for not maybe. I thought because the Rodecaster Pro 2 has a preset for the Pod Mic, I thought maybe I would hear some notable improvement. And I had both mics connected, and I did not hear anything improve. So I stuck with this.
I think the problem with the Rodecaster is that you do have to tweak and play around with it. I know a lot of people have had problems with them. A lot of people have moved on to the other interfaces, and it just depends on your use case, right? I mean, I got the Rodecaster Pro 2 because I do music and things, so I have multiple microphones plugged in, a couple of instruments plugged in, and so on. So it's really convenient instead of having to plug everything in and out. And I used to have the Focusrite, what's it called, Scarlett 2i2, and it was just two inputs, two outputs. That was it, and it was simple enough for me. But they didn't have any processing, and I didn't want to use software processing. That was my biggest issue, having software processing on your machine when you're doing live streaming, when you're using it for other things. It just starts to put unnecessary CPU cycles on there. So I wanted something outboard that would do all the heavy lifting from an audio processing perspective, and then the Rodecaster came up, and it was the best choice.
Well, let me ask you this, because here's my thing. I bought the Rodecaster Pro 2, and this is something Rode does, and some other companies do this too. And I understand it from a product development and product marketing cycle, but then they released the Duo, if I remember correctly, which would have been perfect for me, because the Rodecaster Pro 2 is not a cheap device, especially when you compare it to the Rodecaster Pro 1. And then they had the Duo, which had most of it. I believe it's the Duo.
The Duo is the same as the Pro 2. It's just got 2 less inputs. That's it.
Which is all I needed. Like, I'm not even using. Right now, I'm just using what I will use. Exactly. I will use. One of the nice things is the Wireless Pro pairs wirelessly, like to the Rodecaster. Yeah. So I have that as a second input. If I, wanted to use this table here to do a top down, unless I used a shotgun mic, for example, and I ran an XLR cable, it is kind of nice to just have that freedom. Or if we did like a live studio tour, I would switch to the Wireless Pro. So
lots of options. David's asking you a question. Did Brian download the? Yeah, it's small. Did Brian download the Rode software and set up the mic in there? Because once you get it dialed in, it saves directly to the mic, even when plugging it in. Okay, so depending on what Rode you've got, you can save to the mic as well. So yeah, but you don't have the Rode mic anymore anyway, do you? So
no, I returned it after a couple of days.
Yeah, I think you just have to stick with what you like, and your voice sounds really good on that microphone as well. So that's the main thing. The only thing I would say is, the only thing I would say is, have you thought about moving your arm, not your physical arm, your low profile arm, to the opposite side so it's a bit more out of shot? So no, I meant to your left. So
this one.
On
put it here.
Yeah.
That's where it was before, and so I can easily test it out. That's a great. I
just think because it looks less intrusive if it's not on your right hand side. I don't know. You've only just set your studio, so it's probably unfair of me to say. Have you considered moving that? So.
But that's the kind of stuff that I like to. I maybe didn't think about. I put it here for 2 reasons. One, I thought it was something different because, like I said, it was on the left side in the previous studio. And 2, you remember I was telling you how there was a point where I was getting this weird feedback when I was recording, and I realized it was because so this is I think a 20-foot XLR cable, and I had it all I ran it to the Roadcaster, and then I bunched the excess up, and I tied it together with like one of these little red whips.
Oh yeah, love those.
And so that, even though this is a shielded cable, I don't know if it was because I bunched it all up together or because it was near the UPS that I was using, the power supply.
Yeah, probably.
But I would get this weird feedback. And so point is, the reason why I have it on this side is because basically I ran the length of the 20-foot cable, like snaking around the desk to the Roadcaster, which is right here.
Just a shorter cable. That would fix it.
Exactly. As God is my witness, Neil, I went onto Amazon, and the earliest it would get here would be tomorrow, and I wanted this ready for tonight. So
I do really appreciate you sort of busting your gut to get it ready and show me the updates. It is really nice because it's a great. It is a good motivator though when you've got a goal. I was the same. Like I've got to get stuff ready for a live stream, and I don't want to not go live. And it's just about being a little bit more consistent when you're going live now and things like that. So that's why I'm really looking forward to our multiple series of shows, and this could go and go because there's so many topics to talk about. One topic I was going to ask you to talk about at some point when you feel like it is analog photography versus digital.
Oh,
because that's sure. There's a lot of people going back to. Sorry, switch thing again. There's a lot of people going back. I say going back. I mean, photography has been around for hundreds of years, as you know, but it's like everybody's ditched their old analog camera when DSLRs came out, and then the mirrorless came out, and everyone's like, yeah, digital. I remember speaking to a photographer years and years ago when DSLRs just came out, and she said to me, all these digital photographers, they think they know what they're doing now because the camera's doing everything for them, but I know what I'm doing because I shoot on film. And it was a really interesting point that it doesn't matter what you're using, if you don't have the skills with composition and the technical, what are you doing in your camera to get the image that you want, irrespective of what you're using. A lot of people just buy stuff, shoot on auto, and you're good to go. And I guess when you're getting a brand new camera, I know we're going off tangent a bit now, but when you're getting a brand new camera, it's always tempting just put it in auto and shoot. And I think it's a nice way of just getting the feel of your camera, but playing with the settings and knowing what you're doing from a manual perspective is always best. So something along those lines of digital versus analog. And do you actually still shoot anything in analog? And do you do your own prints and stuff like that? I've always been fascinated by
that. Do I shoot in film? Yes, I still do. I have three SLR cameras there that I've used. 2 Pentax and 1 Ricoh. I cannot find my Canon. I started on a Canon AE1, and I cannot find it. But so there's a lot to unpack there. And actually, I do need to jump in a bit.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah, no problem. I wasn't sure what time you had, but yeah, I mean, just say this for another show, but just to plant the seed, analog versus digital. Maybe we can talk about that as a completely separate show, just to get your teeth into that.
I'll just, my one point I'll make just to, or maybe we could do it as a cliffhanger, but no, I'll do. I am all for democratizing art or the pursuit of art. So your friend is 100% correct. 100%. I agree. The beauty of film is, a lot of it is in terms of the end result is in your hands as the photographer. Like newer film cameras had more improved meters, so it would help you kind of adjust your exposure to make sure that the photo wasn't over or underexposed. And if you don't know what that means, watch our live stream from last week, because we went into exhaustive detail. It's a masterclass in just basics of photography. But I remember when I was in university and the bursar bill that I ran up for film development was obscene.
Oh.
So I think digital is an amazing, amazing thing to help people just learn the basics of composition, of exposure, the exposure triangle, without having to destroy their wallets by one, buying film, which is still quite expensive because it's not being mass produced.
Right.
And two, the development costs. To answer your question, I used to develop my own film, absolutely, but I don't have the space for that here, and I just can't stand the smell of the developing agents. But we can talk about, I think 100% there's a lot that we can talk about on that topic, just because it's so near and dear to me.
Well, yeah, and I thought, well, why not? And I've always been fascinated about developing film, but I've never tried. We all started on, film cameras, and I've always been fascinated, like, well, how is it done, and what's the results, and is it a lot of trial and error, and can you really mess things up and stuff like that? So that's really interesting for me to learn about, and obviously it's near and dear to your heart. And Roy has said that we'll need an old Firewire cable to connect our analog cameras to our computer. Firewire, my goodness me.
Firewire, 400 or 800.
Well, there you go. Remember those big, weird connected? So much.
Do you remember SCSI?
I do. Yeah, I'm from an IT background, so yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
Then there was SD. I'm going way back to, multi-drop connectivity, and back in the Unix days when people used to connect dumb terminals to a big Altos Unix system, and they were just teletyping, the green screens. Yeah, it goes way back.
We've come a long way.
That's right. We've come a long way, haven't we? Yes. So I know you have to drop off pretty much. So we can wrap up anyway, because we've been cracking on for I don't know how long. Is it an hour? Something like that.
Hour and a half almost, I think.
Let me just. Super Duper is about to kick in and do a backup, and I never want it to do that because it'll sleep my computer and then it'll all go horribly wrong. Let me just stop this real quick. Sorry.
No, that's the beauty of life. This is how it works. This is life.
And yeah, because normally I'm not normally up this late, but it's fun because this is a great sort of time. But just for those who are still hanging in there with us, so the plan is that we're going to be going live. Brian and I are going to have this Tuesday show every week, starting in anger the week after next. It's my birthday next week, so I'm not going to stream on Tuesday, and then we're going to make it 9:00 UK, which would be 4:00 Eastern. Right?
Correct.
So that's the plan. So if you're around, come and join us. We're just going to talk about one particular topic. And if you're interested, there's always stuff to talk about. And especially when there's going to be new developments popping in as well with certain things. So there's lots of stuff to talk about. And I really enjoy our time together and having fun, chill, geek out. And it's good to talk to another creator with a different perspective who's from a photography background. And I'm learning stuff all the time about this thing, so it's really good.
Same.
And I really appreciate you getting your studio ready just in time for the show, and you've done an amazing job. I would have still been at it, basically. Just the cable management and messing around with the cables alone, but what you don't see under the desk, nobody's going to get offended about, right? It's still there. So,
pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
I know, that's right. Yeah, you just don't see anything. It's all smoke and mirrors. Anyway, so thanks a lot, people, for joining. If you want to hang around for 2 minutes, Brian, when I close the show, and we'll just have a quick chat before you disappear. Thanks for stopping by, David, and we will see you
Dave.
in the next show. Hopefully my end screen works, and I'll see you soon. Take it easy, everybody.